everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're trading our detective hats for gardening gloves.
Oh,
Well, metaphorically speaking, of course, to explore this whole life is a garden thing.
I do love a good metaphor.
Right.
And this one feels ripe with potential.
I mean, who doesn't love a productive patch of sunflowers?
Right.
Or, maybe a Zen rock garden. But we're not just talking aesthetics here.
Yeah.
We're going to dig into some pretty hefty concepts like
Okay.
self-determination theory, SDT for those in the know, and existentialism to see how they connect to this whole garden idea.
Yeah, and it's a surprisingly natural fit.
Okay.
Both emphasize personal growth, individual choice, that continuous process of cultivating meaning in our lives.
Okay, so let's unpack this. So SDT,
Yeah.
it's all about these core psychological needs we have as humans. Autonomy, competence, and relatedness.
Right.
Now,
Good words.
imagine trying to explain that at a party.
Like.
Yawn, right.
Yeah.
But with this garden analogy, suddenly it clicks. Autonomy means you're the head gardener calling the shots.
Okay.
You choose the plants, the layout.
Right.
Heck, even the gnome population is up to you. It's about aligning those choices with what you value,
Sure.
not just going with what everyone else is planting.
Exactly. It's like, just like certain plants thrive in specific environments,
Right,
what helps you flourish might be totally different from your neighbor's prize-winning roses.
right, yeah.
And that's not just okay, it's essential for your growth.
Okay, so that's autonomy.
Yeah.
You're the CEO of your life garden.
There you go.
But then there's competence, that feeling of, dang, I grew that. Yeah.
In the garden, it's mastering a new pruning technique
Right.
or nursing a finicky herb back to life. What's so fascinating is how those small victories,
Right.
those moments of, I can do this,
Yeah.
build on each other.
It's like you're leveling up those gardening skills, gaining confidence with each success.
Yes.
And this sense of competence, it isn't just limited to the garden, right? It spills over into other areas of our lives,
Yeah.
boosting our belief in our ability to learn, to grow, to achieve our goals.
That's actually a brilliant point.
Oh, thanks.
It's like that feeling when you finally keep that one houseplant alive.
Right.
And suddenly you're like, wait, maybe I can tackle that project I've been putting off too.
Right.
Confidence is contagious, even if it starts in the compost bin.
Yeah.
But it's not all solo work in the garden of life.
Right. We've got our people friends, partners, sometimes even that chatty barista who knows your order.
Of course. Yeah.
That's where relatedness comes in.
Exactly. Think of them as fellow gardeners who might
Oh.
pop by to admire your blooms, offer advice on dealing with those pesky aphids, metaphorical ones included,
Right.
or just share the joy of watching things grow.
Yeah.
But here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
SDT emphasizes that while these connections enhance our gardens,
Okay.
they don't define their worth.
Oh.
Your garden is inherently valuable because you're cultivating it.
Wow. That's kind of a powerful thought, isn't it? It's like, my scraggly tomato plant might not win any prizes,
Right.
but it's mine, darn it. I nurtured it. I worried over its every wilted leaf,
Yeah.
and that gives it meaning, which is a perfect segue, pun intended, to existentialism.
A seamless transition.
Yeah.
And you're right, that sense of inherent worth you just described,
Yeah.
that's at the very heart of existentialism.
Okay.
It acknowledges that we're living in a world without a universal instruction manual.
Right.
We're each responsible for creating our own meaning, our own purpose.
Okay. So responsibility.
Yeah,
That's a biggie in both gardening and, well, life.
for sure.
You can't just scatter seeds and expect a bountiful harvest without putting in the work, right?
Absolutely. And just like a gardener needs to weed regularly,
Right.
fertilize strategically, adapt to unexpected weather, we have to tend to our lives with intentionality.
Right.
The choices that we make, the actions that we take, they're the sunshine, the water, the vital nutrients
Yeah.
that shape how our gardens grow.
Yeah.
Just like any good gardener will tell you, sometimes things wither, storms hit.
Oh, yeah.
And you have to learn to adapt and become resilient
Right.
in the face of challenges.
So we're talking about this, like, taking responsibility, making choices that nurture our personal growth.
Right.
But it's not just about the work, is it? It's
Mhm.
also about staying true to ourselves,
Yeah.
planting what we actually love, even if it's a little unconventional.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Authenticity is key here.
Yeah.
It's like, sure, a perfectly manicured rose garden is impressive, right?
Right.
But if your heart truly beats for wildflowers,
Yeah.
why not let your freak flag fly? Or maybe your freak petal?
I love that.
Plant what brings you joy. That's what makes a garden and a life truly authentic.
Okay, so I'm picturing my life garden now.
Okay.
I've got my autonomy, I'm building competence.
Yeah. I'm rocking my authentic choices, even if they result in a few oddly shaped pumpkins.
Right.
But here's where things get interesting for me.
Okay.
Existentialism also talks about this tension between freedom and anxiety.
Ah, yes, the freedom to design our lives however we choose. It can be exhilarating,
Right.
but it also comes with the weight of that responsibility, the
Yeah.
possibility of making the wrong choice.
Right.
That can definitely lead to some,
Oh, yeah.
garden variety anxiety.
For sure. It's like standing in a garden center the size of a small country,
Right.
faced with endless seed packets and this like
So many choices.
sudden fear of overwatering.
Right, right.
So how do we handle that is the key to just like
Yeah, how do you choose?
accept a certain level of anxiety as part of the
Right.
growth process. In a way, yes, it's about recognizing that uncertainty
Okay.
is as much a part of life as compost and sunshine.
Okay.
Just like a gardener
Yeah.
doesn't know for sure if a seed will sprout.
Right.
We can't predict the exact outcome of every choice we make,
Right?
but we plant the seeds anyway.
Yeah.
We tend the soil. We trust the process.
That's a really helpful way to think about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're embracing the unknown, we're nurturing our own unique gardens,
Right.
but it's not all solo work, right? Let's talk about those relationships, the friends, the partners, even the occasional garden gnome that mysteriously appears overnight.
Right.
How do they fit into this whole analogy?
They add richness, texture, sometimes a little bit of fertilizer, hopefully the good kind.
Right.
Friends especially are like fellow gardeners.
Okay.
Who
Right.
they can offer advice,
Yeah.
celebrate our successes, and maybe even, help us debug a particularly persistent pest problem.
I love that.
Right.
They're there to offer a different perspective, maybe even lend a hand with the weeding.
Right.
But they don't get to dictate what we plant or
Yeah.
how we arrange our gardens.
Right.
It's still our space, our vision.
Yes.
Speaking of space, and this feels like a good transition,
Okay.
how does this garden analogy help us understand boundaries in relationships?
Oh, good question.
Because,
Uh,
boundaries are important.
think of it this way. Even the most beautiful, welcoming gardens
Right.
have fences and strategically placed hedges, right?
Okay, I'm with you.
Okay.
Boundaries are like those structures. They
Yeah.
protect our energy, our well-being, and ensure that everyone can thrive without accidentally trampling each other's prize-winning zucchini.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just like in a garden,
Yeah.
different areas might require different types of boundaries.
Right.
With casual acquaintances, it might be like a low fence.
Right.
A friendly, I'm a little swamped this week kind of thing.
Right.
With close friends, it might be like a gate you can leave open most of the time,
Right.
but still close when you need some solitude.
So how do we translate that to romantic relationships?
Yeah.
Those feel like a whole different ecosystem,
Sure.
maybe with a shared greenhouse or something.
They can be incredibly enriching. It's like inviting another passionate gardener
Okay.
to co-tend a section of your space.
Okay.
You might build something beautiful together. You might learn from each other's expertise.
Right.
And enjoy that shared bounty.
Right.
But remember, even within a shared garden,
Yes.
maintaining individuality is crucial.
So we're talking about those clear boundaries again.
There we go.
Those metaphorical fences that ensure that both partners feel respected
Yes.
and empowered to nurture their own growth, even as they create something wonderful together.
It's a beautiful thing.
Which, now that I say it out loud,
Yeah,
feels oddly applicable to, well, everything.
it's true.
Work-life balance, creative collaborations.
It's all connected.
It all comes back to respecting those individual spaces, doesn't it?
It really does. It's about recognizing that our well-being, our sense of self,
Yeah.
is our own responsibility to cultivate.
Yeah.
And from that place of groundedness,
Right.
we can then choose to share, collaborate, and connect with others
Right.
in ways that feel both authentic and fulfilling.
This is eye-opening stuff. But we haven't even touched on heartbreak yet.
Ooh, right?
That's got to be like, what, a freak hailstorm in the garden analogy?
It can feel that way,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Heartbreak is like someone accidentally, or sometimes not so accidentally, tramples your favorite flower bed,
Oof.
leaving you to deal with the muddy aftermath.
Yeah.
But even then, even when it feels like our carefully tended gardens have been ravaged,
Right.
the analogy still holds powerful lessons.
Because ultimately we're still the gardeners,
Right.
right?
The
We will not
hearing.
be able to, like, undo the damage,
Right.
but we can choose how we respond to it.
Exactly. Do we let the weeds take over?
Right.
Or do we put on our, most resilient gardening gloves
Okay.
and start that process of healing?
Okay, that's actually really empowering.
Yeah.
So how does a heartbroken gardener even begin to approach that kind of healing?
Right.
It feels like it would take more than just a little plant food and a pep talk.
Right. For sure.
What are some practical steps we can take to tend to those emotional wounds?
Right.
So we're talking about heartbreak as this sudden storm,
Yeah.
in our garden analogy.
Yeah.
Everything feels a bit trampled. Maybe there's even some metaphorical hail damage.
Right.
To our favorite blooms, it's a lot to process.
It is.
Where do we even begin to heal from something like that?
Well, it's a process.
Okay.
That's for sure. Just like a gardener wouldn't expect to erase storm damage instantly,
Right?
we need to give ourselves that same grace and time to heal from heartbreak.
Okay.
But here's the good news.
Right.
We're not powerless.
All right.
We still have our gardening tools,
Yeah.
right? And that first step is often simply acknowledging the damage,
Okay.
giving ourselves permission to grieve what was lost.
That makes sense. It's like we can't just pretend the storm didn't happen and expect things to magically bounce back.
Exactly. We have to see those broken branches, those uprooted plants.
Right.
Let ourselves feel those feelings fully.
And it's okay to feel those feelings.
Yes.
It's part of the process.
It's part of the process, absolutely.
Yeah.
And just like a skilled gardener would assess the damage,
Okay.
before rushing to replant, we need to understand the impact of heartbreak
Right.
before we can truly heal,
Right.
what boundaries were crossed, what needs weren't met.
Right.
Those reflections, though they're often painful,
Yeah.
offer invaluable insights for future growth.
It's about learning from the experience, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that storm reveals a weak spot
Right.
in our, like, metaphorical fence, or it highlights the need for
Right.
a more resilient type of plant in a certain area of our lives.
Exactly.
It's not about blaming ourselves or the storm,
Right.
but about using those insights to build a stronger, more resilient garden
I love that.
moving forward.
Beautifully said.
So, heartbreak, while devastating,
Yes.
can also be this powerful catalyst for growth.
It can.
It can lead us to reevaluate our priorities,
Yeah.
strengthen our self-awareness,
Absolutely.
and clarify what we truly need to thrive.
Yes. Yes.
Wow, this has been incredibly eye-opening.
It has.
We've gone from picturing our lives as garden to understanding how to apply these, like, seemingly abstract concepts.
Right.
Autonomy, competence, relatedness, responsibility, authenticity
Big words.
to real-life challenges.
Yeah.
I have to say, I'm feeling a lot more equipped to
Really?
handle whatever metaphorical weather comes my way. But before we get too introspective here,
Right.
let's shift gears for a moment and talk practical takeaways.
Okay. I like it.
If our listeners are ready to channel their inner gardener,
Yes.
what are some concrete steps they can take starting today?
Ooh, I love that question. And it goes back to one of the core principles we discussed earlier.
Okay.
Focus inward.
Okay.
Just like a gardener tends to the soil before planting,
Right.
we need to nurture our own well-being
Right.
first and foremost. That means prioritizing self-care, honoring our needs, and cultivating a compassionate relationship with ourselves.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that our worth isn't contingent on external validation,
Okay.
but stems from the simple act of showing up for ourselves day after day with intention and with care.
I love that. So step one is cultivating that inner garden of self-compassion and resilience.
Yes.
What then, how does this translate to navigating those relationships, those fellow gardeners we've invited into our lives?
With appreciation, not comparison.
Okay.
It's so tempting to look at someone else's flourishing garden and feel,
Oh, yeah.
envious or inadequate.
Right.
But remember,
Yeah.
every garden is unique.
Okay.
And your journey isn't about replicating someone else's success,
Right.
but about cultivating your own. Appreciate the beauty and diversity of other gardens
Right.
without losing sight of your own unique vision.
That's such a crucial point. It's like, sure, your neighbor might have prize-winning tomatoes,
Right.
but maybe you're growing the most amazing, quirky, conversation-starting kale
There you go.
anyone's ever seen.
Exactly.
And that's something to celebrate.
Absolutely. Celebrate your unique strengths, your progress.
Yes.
However small it may seem.
Right.
Because when we operate from a place of self-acceptance and appreciation,
Right.
it becomes so much easier to extend that same grace
Yeah.
to others.
Others and to ourselves.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, this has been an amazing deep dive. We've gone from, you know,
It has.
metaphorical gardening gloves to some pretty profound insights, I think,
Nice.
about life, responsibility, and the power of cultivating our own authentic paths.
It's been a pleasure.
And on that note, I'll leave our listeners with this final thought. If you could plant one new seed in your life garden today, what would it be? What small act of self-care, what bold choice, what connection with a fellow gardener would help your authentic self flourish? That's something to reflect on as we wrap up today's episode. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.